So, welcome to the Megaman Legacy Collection 2. We're going to be going over the X6 speedrun today. So, for anyone that's watched the older videos for X4 and X5, we're going to be doing the same kind of formula. We're just going to kind of go through the game and kind of just talk about some of the breakdowns, the routing, the character choices, and so on. But real quick, I want to talk about the preference in the run. Usually people like to run this game on the easy difficulty just because this game is coded so well. The easy difficulty of X6 is probably comparable to maybe X4's difficulty. The 8 mavs throughout the entire game, almost on any difficulty, even on extreme, are not the hard parts. Really, the hard parts are when you get to the end game. Easy mode just makes the end game a little bit more bearable. But we're not going to do that today. We're actually going to do it on the normal to kind of showcase its default settings. But disclosure, I am going to be using black 0 for that run, just to kind of offset the counterbalance of the craziness that is the end game. Black 0 will have shock buffer built in, which will reduce the knockback and stagger time, as well as giving him a damage up 1, which you could normally get on 0 by unlocking it in one of the later levels. Also, the cheat codes for this game, I went over them in X5, and I meant to talk about it in the X4 video, but I kind of just negated to talk about them. If you want to play with Ultimate Armor X on the start screen, you would press left 3 times, right once, and you'll hear a chime like this. If you wanted to play with Black 0, however, you would press L1 3 times and R2 once, and you'll hear the same chime as so. And that's how we unlock the 2 different codes. So we're going to jump into this, and unlike in X5 where we have massive walls of text that we have to mash through, we can actually just press the start button and skip the cutscenes. Now real quick, I want to talk about movement in this game. Because we can crouch in this game, normally dashing has a little bit of a frame window at the beginning and end of the dash where you're at a slower speed. However, doing a crouch dash and mashing actually keeps you at max speed the entire time and cancels out those slowdown frames. It's important in certain parts of the game, but we won't be using it too often. But this is the fastest movement in the game, followed by your standard dash jumps. So in this game, because for whatever reason they decided to give the storyline a revamp, because this game was developed and released I think 8 or 9 months after X5. X5 was intended to be the last game, but Capcom wanted to make another X game, so they kind of rushed this one out, so they had to change the story a little bit. But what eventually happens is 0 dies and X gets his sword, which is why we have it now. And it's useful in a few spots. Does reasonable damage. It's important for a boss fight coming up, as well as it's used for climbing. As you saw when I went up the wall a few windows back, I was alternating between jump and slash, and the reason for that is the slash actually pulls me toward the wall, allowing me to actually make contact and jump faster, basically accelerating the climb speed. So this boss, much like in X1, we want to be at a certain health, because this is a 2-part fight here. We have this Junker boss here, and then after that we have the antagonist boss, much like X1. So in X1, you wanted to make sure that you had low health in order to pretty much skip the Vile fight. We're going to do a similar thing here. So I got myself at low health, and we're going to pretty much skip the high max fight that's coming up right now. Normally it's a fight that you are incapable of winning, but it doesn't showcase that. You're just kind of meant to take enough damage to hit what should be fatal, but it'll leave you at 1. So we're just going to skip ahead by actually intentionally taking damage during this boss fight. And we'll just make our way through high max and then start getting routed onto the 8 maps. Now we are going to unlock 0 in the very first mission that we go through. Each stage has an alternate version respective of that stage, and it gives you an alternate boss at the end. So for example, we're going to be going into Rady Turtleoid stage in a moment, but instead of fighting Rady Turtleoid at the end of the stage, we're going to go into the alternate path, and it's going to give us a different boss at the end of that. And then completing that mission is actually how we would get 0. And because this game was rushed, it actually did not get a English voice cast, so everything is voiced in Japanese, even though the text is in English. It doesn't have the same grammar errors that X5 originally did. X5, when it got remade and re-released, they fixed some of the grammar stuff. They also got rid of the Guns N' Roses references from the bosses in X5 later on. But in this game, originally, there was some grammar stuff that was wrong just because it was rushed out, but it's not as bad. So here we gotta destroy these little red and blue sensors here in order to be able to destroy the weather machine. The weather machine is what is causing this acid rain to happen. I was a little too far to the left and my cannon was actually clipping through it. Now on easy difficulty, these will actually break in one charge shot. I had some really bad aim there. Sorry about that. I'm going to take this heal. We're moving on to the next stage, or the next portion of the stage, I should say. And this is partly why the game is run on easy for the speedrun, is because all of the amount of enemies that they throw at you, it's actually pretty insane. Because this game was not quality tested like X4 and 5 were, they kind of just said with the mantra of, hey, we'll just throw enemies at them, and you know that'll add to the game. You know, that'll add the depth of the game that we're looking for, and it really doesn't. It just makes the game a little bit more tedious to play, but it's okay. Ate my input there, but it's okay. We'll because they gave us a broken game, we're gonna break it back in our favor soon, and we'll set the balance back again. Alright, so we're going to be going up against the portal now. Jump over him and get hit on purpose so we can dash through the spikes. This will bring us into that alternate path that I mentioned earlier. And here there's going to be 4 Reploids, 2 of which are mandatory for the run. This one is one of the mandatory ones. It's required in order to get through the run. That one is the one that gives us Hyper Dash. We'll also have to destroy, as you saw, more of these sensors. That Reploid is not required. However, it's just good for the heal, and you also get a free life out of it. So in the event that you do die, it's a little less painful, because we're constantly taking damage in this area. This is a required Reploid, and that's the one that gives us Saber Plus. Ooh, missed that jump. And there's one more Reploid that was on that side that's not required, but again, for the heal, it's pretty good. So we're just gonna go after the sensors now. This area is not that bad once you learn its routing. Because you can actually skip the other Reploids if you so choose. It does save you a little bit of time. I'm still going to grab this one just to have that extra life. Because I intend to probably... Not intend to, but I expect to probably die in one of the later stages just because of bad RNG and bad design. So we take the heal and we move into the boss fight. Now this boss is weak to the Saber Slash. However, if we use the Saber Slash while on the ground, it'll cause the boss to disappear and relocate. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to keep hitting the Nightmare Zero. So instead, we're actually going to do jump slashes to deal the damage. I messed that up. That was a really bad fight there. Sorry. You want to maintain jump slashes, and you want to try to avoid hitting him on the ground. Now, hitting him on the ground could sometimes be beneficial because he could do the Hyper Slash, which is a giant sword slash in the air, and you could just dash underneath it, allowing you to give some breathing room. But that was not at all what I wanted this to turn into. That's how the fight's supposed to go. And now we've unlocked Zero. And like I said, because we did the code in the beginning, we will have Black Zero, who will have Shock Buffer and Attack Up 1. Now the Attack Up 1 is kind of nice. It does make the game just a little bit easier for the first two fights. But we could have gotten Attack Up 1 from the regular gameplay, which is what we actually got for those Reploids. But the next boss that we're going to go into is going to be Sheldon. Now, because this is normal, we're actually able to start using those power-ups that I made mention of, Hyper Dash and Saber Up, at the end of the second stage. So we're going to be finishing Sheldon, and we're going to go into Maginian. After we finish the Maginian stage, that is when we can start using the power-ups because we'll have enough souls. On easy difficulty, we actually have to wait until after 3 stages with Zero, because those little ghost things that you saw me kill just right here, they don't appear as frequently in the easy difficulty, so you actually cannot get to the 500 soul requirement by the end of stage 2, at least not with this route. However, on normal, because they're everywhere, we more than can. These enemies are being really annoying. And that's kind of where the shock buffer plays into an effect. You don't get knocked back as far, and you don't get stunned as long. We do take slightly less damage, but that's not a huge factor. So here we're just going to run up, and we're going to SDC, which is alternating between slash and dash. So much like I've shown in the X4 and X5 video, if you alternate between your attack, which is square, and your dash, which is circle, you can do that. But this is the only time that we'll ever see this technique. From now on, because now we have Shield Sheldon's ability, which is the guard shell, we're actually going to do something a lot more powerful. Now, this was not intended by the developer. What the guard shell is supposed to be, and what it's intended to do, is it's supposed to put a little barrier in front of us that anytime a projectile hits it, it drains a little bit of the meter of the ammo supply, and it's supposed to just negate the attack and also send it back a little bit, allowing us to have a little bit of protection. That's what it's intended to do. But because this game is coded so perfectly, what actually happens is if we overlay the sprite of the shield onto the sprite of, say, an enemy, it removes their ability to get invulnerability frames or iframes. And this allows us to do repeated damage with a single slash. And you'll see that as I go through this level here. It's hard to see with these guys because sometimes you can kill them with one slash, sometimes you don't. But watch the health bar of this thing. Pretty busted. And this is just one way we're gonna break the game back into our favor since the game is coded so badly. Now these ghosts we kind of have to get. Okay, beautiful. Got the one cycle there. And the reason for that is because I got them on the... Now if I double check, I have 300 souls, which is perfect. Killing a boss gives us 200, so we don't need those ghosts right there. Now this boss, unfortunately, we can't use Shield Sheldon's trick, simply because the saber doesn't really do anything to him in the first place. But he is weak to our Z Buster. And the Z Buster, unlike an X5, is actually useful in this game. It can deal probably close to near infinite damage because of the way it's coding. It's a variable, and based on a few factors, based on distance, time, boss frames, it's interesting how it works. But it can deal a staggering amount of damage. Now, for those that are thinking that, well, I have the saber up actually doesn't do anything for the Z Buster. So this damage you're seeing is actually the exact same amount of damage you would be doing with Red Zero. The Z Buster is just that good. On one of the later bosses, there is a potential to one-shot the boss because of the Z Buster's variable. It takes a little bit of doing, and it's kind of hard to get, but if you get it, you can take anywhere from half his life in one shot to all of his life in one shot. I personally have only ever gotten half, but I've seen in other videos and other runs of people that have actually one-shotted this particular boss, and it's kind of funny to watch. So now we have 500 souls. As you see, Zero has one slot that's highlighted in green. What we're actually going to do is we're going to do a small glitch that actually allows us to put 2 items in one slot. So if you notice right above Zero's name, we have X, right? Megaman X. What's going to happen is I'm going to do a glitch where I hit X and circle at the same time, which will equip and unequip the item that I select simultaneously. In doing so, X's name will permanently disappear, and then I can select a second item and put it in the same slot that I originally used for Zero, allowing me to basically double stack. So I'm going to press X on Zero first. I'm going to highlight Hyper Dash. I'm going to press X and Zero together. I was wrong. It should look like this. There we go. That's how it should look. Now I press X again. Notice X's name didn't appear. I'm going to press Saber Slash. Now when I press Saber Up, you're going to see Hyper Dash in the slot. But I just pressed X on Hyper Dash. When I go into the next stage, which is Rainy Turtleoid, I will pause the game as soon as we load in, and you're going to see both buffs actually grabbed and are equipped to Zero, even though I technically only had one slot. Because again, this game was coded so perfectly. So see, there's Hyper Dash and there's Saber Plus. Here we're just going to press R2, and that's going to clear out that room. Now getting healed gets rid of the guard shell, so we have to re-equip it. And the only way to actually turn it on is by actually pausing the game and selecting it. You can scroll over to it using the shoulder buttons, but it won't actually activate. They never actually programmed an activate button. Z-Buster there. And as you see, I was hitting that center, or whatever you want to call it, multiple times at one slash. We're actually going to be using that throughout the entire run for the most part. It's much faster than trying to SDC, even though SDC is good, and you can also use the guard shell with the SDC to actually get an even better SDC, but it's not as good as the single slash. The single slash just does way too much damage. And we go to row 3 for both and hit R2, and we should be good. We have more than enough life now to get through Turtleoid. Now Turtleoid is an interesting boss. He's a wannabe Blastoise. He's super large, but because of that they coded him badly, and we're going to do large amounts of damage. Now the amount of damage you're going to see, I'm going to basically try to get a 2 slash on him. With Red Zero it could be a 2 slash, but usually it's a 3 slash, so keep that in mind, because I do have a double +1 on Black Zero. I'm going to stand in his toe, slash and turn, slash and turn. I messed up the 2 cycle, I got the 3, but that a 3 cycle is guaranteed for both Red and Black Zero. And the reason why that works is, as big as he is, he doesn't have one hitbox. Instead, he's comprised of like 3 different hitboxes that are from the, I guess, the crystals on his back. And because they're individual, they're actually independent also of each other. So hitting multiple of them at the same time allows you to deal extra damage as if you hit him multiple times with 1 slash. And this is without guard shell, as you notice. And then turning, just like an X5, if you slash and then hit the opposite direction you're facing, it extends the slash animation. Unlike an X5, where it properly cancels out the original slash and just gives you the turn slash, in this game it actually continues the initial slash, allowing you to basically extend the frames that you're in his hitbox on each of those independent weak points and do that much damage. Now Rainy Turtleoid gave us a really good attack called Ensuizan, which is this, and we're going to use this to become invincible. The reason why this works is Ensuizan gives us a like 3 frame window of, I messed that up, of becoming invincible, and becoming invincible only for the beginning part, and the end part allows the Ensuizan attack to actually go off. That's the only reason why it's coded in it. But if we interrupt it by, say, the platform removing itself from underneath our feet, it doesn't know how to cancel out. It doesn't do like a quality check, and it doesn't turn off the invincibility frame, so I can walk through enemies. However, I can still die to falling off the map, and I can still die to crush damage. And actually, if I do take crush damage that's non-fatal, like if I pinned into a wall and something, you know, pressed up against me, I would take a large amount of damage and I wouldn't die, but I would then also lose the Ensuizan buff. So the important thing is to not lose it. Now the health pack I just picked up here is important, as well as this Reploid I'm standing in front of. This Reploid will give us a full heal after we get toward the end of the game. Once we finish beating Wolf, we'll unlock the 3rd slot, and the 3rd slot, which is the center slot, is actually a unique slot in the game. It doesn't act like the other 4, which are the, we'll, you know, call them intercardinal slots. and the reason for that is because it can only hold special upgrades. That full heal upgrade is actually considered one of the special ones. So as you see, I'm just going right through these enemies though now. And we can use this in multiple areas, and we are going to abuse this religiously. Just to break the game back into our favor and restore the balance a little bit. Now again, the 8 mavs aren't that bad, and even their stages aren't that terrible. It's really once we get to the gate stages at the end. And that will be where the game, for some reason, just ramps up. So he stayed on our level, Commander Yanmark, which is beautiful. So we're going to overlay this on his body, and watch. If you overlay in just the right pixels, you can 2-slash him. Sometimes even 1. Now the reason why we're also going this specific route is for 2 reasons. One, it's faster than the old X route, which had to do a lot of backtracking and revisiting in order to get another power-up called Jumper, which doubled your jump height. You needed that plus Hyper Dash, plus you had to get the Blade Armor, which we're not going to get at all. It was a lot slower. Also, we're going to be fixing the nightmares in a set rotation. So notice how Sheldon and Heatnik's stage are glowed in red, because we just visited Commander Yanmark. Whenever you visit a stage, let alone beat it, just visiting it, that stage will then have a nightmare that will infect other stages, and they'll glow in red. The Yanmark stage, that nightmare summons bees that are unkillable, and they just ruin your day because they follow you, they deal damage to you, you can't kill them, you just have to hit them enough times for them to go away for a little bit. We don't want to deal with that. So instead we're going to do a run here at Metal Shark Player, and we're actually going to get rid of the Yanmark nightmare on Blaze Heatniks. Also, we're going to be using X on that level, and because we did get the Metal Anchor attack, which is not the weakness of Blaze Heatniks, but it'll work on all of the mini bosses. It is that strong. So we're going to use this Ride Armor just to stop this Crusher from going its full rotation. As you see, it's stopping really short. And now I have Ensuizan again, just by breaking that platform beneath me. Now if you were to die here because of crush damage by accident, those boxes I destroyed just right there, you can actually break the top one first and then stand on top of the bottom one and then do the Ensuizan on top of it, or these, whichever you prefer, and when the box below you breaks, you'll have Ensuizan's buff. Now, though that looks like the portal for an alternate ending, it's actually not. This is the only stage that, no matter which way you try to go, whether alternate or the intended route, you always go through a portal for some reason. The alternate portal would have been further on my left from where I took the ladder. There would have been a really long crush sequence that I would have to dash through, which Hyper Dash would allow you to do, and also the Ensuizan buff. And that is where the alternate path is, but we're not going to be using any more alternate paths in this run. Now the spikes themselves here won't kill you, but the height of them from crushing will. So just be really careful about not getting yourself stuck. But I am, like I said, immune to instant death spikes, as you see here. Normally you would have to hug these walls, and it's a challenge. Or at least that's the intended way, I should say. So we got a mini boss here, and immediately after the mini boss we have the final boss. So it's kind of a mini boss rush. And let's see if he plays nice and gives us his hitbox early. Nice. Now I'm going to switch to Rakoa just for easy menuing. That way guard shell is only one slot above this. I could just press start, up, and then select guard shell, and I'm going to use guard shell slash against Shark. And if I do it right, again he'll be 2 slashed. Potentially 1. It is possible to get a 1 slash. And that's Motor Shark player. In the up-and-coming stage, which is Blaze Heatniks again, we're going to be actually running with X. And X's metal anchor, which we got from this boss, is going to be used for all the mini bosses. It's like 4 or 5 donuts that we have to get rid of. And the best way of getting rid of them is with metal anchor. There's really no substitute for that, except maybe the rainfall attack, but we're gonna try not to use that at all. Little fun Easter egg though, the charged metal anchor, instead of shooting a bunch of anchors, it rains down a bunch of metal storm eagles. Kind of a callback to X1. So if you pay close attention to that, it's a little fun little Easter egg. Two cycles are usually guaranteed. However, it is possible to 1 cycle a lot of these donuts. The problem is the pattern of the eagles is not guaranteed. They're not a set pattern. They're a little randomized. And also where the donuts shoot is a little random as to the timing of when they shoot. Not so much the location of where they shoot, but when they shoot. And that can actually cause you to get hit mid-animation of you launching your attack, causing you to take extra damage. I did not want to get hit by that. The flames here deal excessive amounts of damage. Alright, we're going to try to get the 1 cycle on this one by going over his head and going to the far wall. Ooh. Alright, we got the 2 cycle. It hurts on the ammo a little bit, but it's okay. We can use the Giga attack on one of the up-and-coming donuts. That was donut 2. We have this donut coming here. We have the lava pit donut, and then 1 more. So there is 5 donuts that we have to go through. We only have 4 metal anchors left. Ooh. That's unfortunate. Alright. We'll use this attack. And hopefully it deals damage. Nope, it did not. And this is where Metal Anchor, sometimes you get screwed over by the pattern. And I finally die mutually. Okay, that's fine. Now we have more Metal Anchors. If everything gets 1 to 2 cycled, you're usually left with 1 or 2 left over, but we tried not to use the extras. So we're going to see if we can get the 1 cycle on this guy again. Nope. That did not go well one bit. but I'm willing to use as many as I need for this fight here. Here we go. Sometimes you have to take an intentional death. I prefer not to, but it happens. This one can also get one-cycled if RNG is on our side. Like I said, Charge Metal Anchor, though it is powerful, it's a little bit luck dependent. And that's what a good one-cycle looks like. This donut coming up usually gets one-cycled. As soon as you see it, you release it, but sometimes it doesn't. Awesome. So that's the last donut that we need. And we're actually going to be using this attack coming up, which we got from Maginian. And it's actually not Heatnix's weakness. However, it still does like 8 damage to him, and we can actually hit him in 6 shots and end the fight. It's because of how this attack works on Heatnix. A lot is why we use X here as opposed to 0. 0's Rakoa Giga attack, his R2 button, would actually get rid of the donuts just as easily as Metal Anchor, if not even a little bit more consistently. But he has no answer for Heatnix right now. And Heatnix cannot get hit with the Guard Slash. It doesn't work on him. It only works on certain enemies. So because of that, it's honestly just easier to run X for this mission. We're going to be using X one more time coming up soon. And that'll be the last time that we use X for this run. For the very next mission, though, we are going to be using 0, and we're going to be going after Wolf next. Now, this level, casually, is a little bit of a problem for people because of the ice physics, and there's so much blocking your way. Ice boulders and enemies and so on, but we're gonna Insuizan our way through it. I don't think that was it. That was it. It's because of areas like this why this level can be a little bit tedious casually. But if you have the Insuizan attack, now this area coming up here, right here, we're not going to be using this area, but we would actually have to grab some of those dogs and then use the alternate path that's listed over there in order to get the jumper buff if we were doing X's route, the old route that was slower. But because we are not using X at all for that, for the later stages, because X used to be the what we finished the game with for the most part, we will not be using that for this run at all. So the trick here is to double jump your way through, but if you have to make a little bit of a further jump, use the dash jump that you see me using here in order to close the gap faster, because you actually fall faster with dashing, just like you did in X4, than you do not dashing. Now, a really cool glitch here, if I crouch dash and hold, I'll catapult across. Saves about maybe like 1 second. It's just kind of funny to do. Only works because of the ice physics. Now, this boss, we are going to guard shell slash again. However, depending on what he does, if I see him and he has all 4 paws close together, that means he's going to dash, and we don't want him to dash. So I'm actually going to be using the fire attack to reset him. But if he stays in that position right there, which he is right now, I can then guard shell slash him. A little tricky to get the position because of the ice, but you can use jump, just a regular single jump, to position yourself. And you kind of want to get the guard shell on his shoulder, not so much on his face, but on his shoulder. That's where his hitbox like actually is coded to be. Once you put it there, then you'll be able to get the guard shell slash. In the event that, like I said, all 4 paws were close together rather than spread out like they were there, that means he's going to run, and I would use the fire attack, which is using up and square, and that would actually not only deal damage, which is good, but it also resets his AI, allowing for an opportunity for him to just stand still and try to shoot his Ice Blast. So this is the last time we're going to see X, and this is also the last of the 8 Mavericks. We actually got through the 8 Mavericks pretty cleanly. I had like 1 death or 2 deaths that were just unintentional. So here, this level's hated by everyone, casually and speedrun, because these totem poles right here, you would have to you're intended to go into those. It teleports you to one of like 3 locations. You're supposed to complete that area location. It brings you back to the very beginning, and then you're supposed to fight the totem pole that then appears. We're not going to deal with any of that, provided we do this right. So instead, we're actually going to be using the ice attack that we just got, and I'm going to try to have the ice attack crush me. In crushing me, it's going to give me invulnerability frames, allowing me to phase through that teleporter and skip the entire section that they want me to do. And there's like 4 totem poles that they want you to do, and each one has like 3 or 4 different locations. And what's really annoying is when you're trying to get like 100% this game or get all the armors, is one of the armors, one of the health pieces, and I think one of the health regen or weapon items is locked behind one of those places, and there's nothing you could do about it if it gives you the wrong one. It's purely RNG. This level sucks. So I'm going to try to hit both dash and triangle at the same time in the air. And if I do it right, which I'm not doing right now, it'll crush me like this, and then I could jump right through. The positioning for this one up and coming is, if you look at X's shoulder wing, you want it to be right on that black line, and we're going to do the same thing that we did upstairs. Now you can get crushed up to 3 times before the ice disappears, so if you're not confident to do it on the first crush instance because you're kind of in shock of it, you can wait till the second like I'm doing. Same thing, watch X's wing, and we're just going to do the same jump. Now this one, I'm going to use X's toe, and it should be right on that line. I'm going to do the same thing. I got 1 more shot. If not, I'll take an intentional death. And taking the intentional death is actually still regarded as faster than just doing that last section. That's how slow the sections actually are. Falcon Armor dash is a little finicky sometimes. Come on. Wow, it's really robbing me today, isn't it? There we go. And jump through. First try. Just kidding. So once again, we're going to be using the same laser attack against Scaravage. Again, it does like 8 damage to him. We're going to kill him in like 5 shots. And though it's not his weakness, it works tremendously well. And that is all 8 Mavs. And this is the last time that we're actually going to see X in this run. Now, the stage is coming up. This is why easy mode is usually chosen for the speed run, and you'll see why. The 8 Maverick stages didn't seem that bad, and they're really not. It's Gate and his stages. Gate 1 and Gate 2 is also a Gate 2/3 because it's 2 stages tied together as one giant massive stage. But before that, we're going to equip the full heal on 0. And we'll showcase as to why this level sucks. Why this string of levels suck. This is where they just decided, we don't know what to do with our game. We don't know how to balance it. And it shows because they decided to just make instant death everywhere as the challenge, if you will. And then the fact that you needed to like revisit stages 6 times in order to get every single part in order to get through with X. Like this jump right here. I can double jump or I can scale jump with 0. Cannot do any of that with X. I have to get jumper and the little ice pedestal that you saw me using in the last level. I actually have to use those in conjunction with each other in order to make those jumps. And I don't know why I hit dash there. And of course, the ceiling jump doesn't always work. And yes, I did just Insui's on there just to make this area a little bit easier. But I'm going to lose it almost as soon as I get it too. It just makes this jumping section a little bit more manageable. Look at the amount of enemies they throw at you. Now with this screen, because we have Hyper Dash, as soon as the screen shakes, we're going to jump. It can only be done with Hyper Dash. Otherwise, you'll have to scale that left wall and then wait for the lava to start going down to make that jump. You will never be able to make that with regular dash jump without Hyper Dash. Now this lava is instant death also. And it's back. Now there is a way to abuse the ice physics on these platforms and get the Insuizan glitch, but it's not really important because the door is right here. And now we're coming up to the boss known as Mother Nightmare, Mother Virus, something to that effect. And this is the boss that made most people rage quit this game, myself included as a kid. Back in 2001, I was, what, 12 years old or something at the time? 12, 13, depending on the month of release. And this game, I hated you for this boss, X6. I hated you so much for this boss. So we're going to be using Insuizan in the air to slow our momentum. And we have to hit these eyes. Of course, the game says otherwise. And there's no way to tell which direction the pattern is going to go until it starts. I'm going to take the full life recover. Now that full life recover, I can only do it once per stage. However, it'll reset after the stage is over. So I'm using that instead of the regen tank to tactically try to save the regen tank itself. And now he's going to be moving a lot faster. This is the main reason why I take Black 0 for this run on normal. Ooh, I'm actually gonna have to use this. This was a really, really bad mother nightmare fight. Now, this sword slash you see me doing right now is the weakness, but it's very rare you can actually hit them with it because they don't always give you the right pattern. Some people actually in the community like this boss. I don't know why. I really don't. That boss can go kick rocks for all I care. I hate that boss. As much as I've started to actually like this game, I will never like that boss. So we're gonna have to probably safety strat high max. So more instant death everywhere, as you see. And more plethora of enemies coming up. Unfortunately, nothing to Ensui's on. Now here we're gonna duck dash because I do not want to cause a particular totem pole to spawn. However, I am gonna jump right on this edge here to get this elevator to spawn, and I could jump right here. Where I'm standing would be where the totem pole would be if I did not crouch dash. Now this comes to a really annoying part here. Oh, cool! We got it. We got the good rotation that time. Sometimes you can miss that rotation. Sometimes you have to either take crush damage or take a bullet shot or some other nonsense that you have to go through in order just to get through that section. You're intended, I think, to have like shadow armor and then just stick to the wall, but no. Now his weakness is Sensuizan, which was that air slash you saw me do. I just had the wrong angle for it. Now that's the slow way of beating him. The fast way of beating him is actually destroying the shield like 4 times in a row, and then he'll just sit in the middle. Now Ensuizan can also deal damage to him in the event that your Sensuizan doesn't hit him properly. So I'm actually going to take him down to about half life or so, and then I'm going to show off the other strat just for safety reasons because I do not have a health tank, and I might want to save my full heal just in case, because though this is Gate Stage 2, Gate Stage 3 takes place immediately. Okay. Gate Stage 3 takes place immediately after this. You don't actually get a reset. And if you ever decide to go back to the stage select screen, you'll have to redo this stage again. So it's Gate Stage /2/3, which means that if I use the health regen, I don't have it for the second portion. Those death balls are actually really dangerous with the other strat. And the reason for that is because you can break them, and when you break them they turn into like 4 smaller spheres, but those 4 smaller spheres actually deal more damage and kind of track your movements, making it a little bit harder. Alright, I think it's time we start showcasing the other. That's 2 shields. That's how the fight is meant to be fought, and if you're skilled enough and you practice it enough, you can actually do that from the beginning. I was just showcasing the safety strat earlier because I had very low health. But then I died. Now, dying also does not reset the full heal, which is a little unfortunate. Stupid cartwheels. We grab these just to put them into the health container. Now this up and coming section is a giant crust section, and I'm just gonna try to concentrate on it because it's unfriendly, like you see right there. So I'm gonna try to go serious mode on this for a little bit. That area is much harder than it looks. I actually last night was trying to do a recording of this game, and I honestly spent 12 minutes there because I was talking while trying to do that area, and it didn't work out very well. I think it was like 7 deaths. I saw like 2 continue screens. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. Thankfully, we first tried it on this recording. Now let's just hope Gate is as nice as he was in last night's attempt. In last night's attempt, he basically only did the attack that we wanted. 1 second. Sorry about that. Had to tend to the animals. Alright, so in this fight, we cannot actually physically hurt Gate one bit. He's going to be throwing out these energy balls that we're going to use to hurt him. But as he gets lower and lower health, he throws those out less, and he just tries to touch you. So the trick is to hug the wall and use the guard shell in order to deal the damage. That attack will actually erase a platform for a few seconds. It can also deal large amounts of damage to you as well. Now there is one sphere color that we want him to throw, typically, which is the blue, and there it is. If we do it right, which we didn't, we can actually get Insuizan off of it. Ooh, that's in a bad position. If we do it right though, it can actually give us Insuizan, and then it doesn't matter what he does, we instantly pretty much win the fight because he can no longer harm us. Of course, I mentioned it, he doesn't put in the position we want. I'm going to take the full health recover, just to be safe. This is not a fight you want to die on, because you lose so much time because of the RNG that is him. For anyone that's seen the X4 video, we always called General in that game RN General, because he is just the giant ball of RNG. I would take that fight over this one any day, even as Zero. Because at least when I get to damage him, I can, like, you know, 3-shot him. Whereas here, I have to use his attacks against himself. One more should do it, and let's just hope he does it fast. Oh, thank you. Alright, that wasn't a terrible gate. A little at times. Sometimes he can be really, really bad with his AI, and once he gets below 2/3 health of his maximum, like he only has 1/3 remaining, he typically can waste about 3 minutes of your life just by consistently dashing into you or destroying platforms with the giant slash attack and never actually throwing those energy orbs, allowing you never an opportunity to deal damage to him. Nothing you do, you guard, slash, anything, none of it actually works. And even on the Sigma section, there's just instant death everywhere. Thankfully, this is the last stage in the game, so we're close, we're almost done. So I'm going to start with Blaze Heatnix, just because he's one of the 2 Mavericks in the entire run of this boss rush that can actually do a lot of damage to me. And because he's so close to the health potions at the top, I'm just going to start with him first and then continue where I left off from there. That was a pretty good heat mix. Sensuizan, which was that air slash someone using, is his weakness. It's just a little hard to do. It's not as consistent as using the ray beams from X. Next is going to be the second Maverick that can do a lot of damage to us, even if you wouldn't suspect it, is Majinian. In the refights, because he's level 4, he can make a lot more copies of himself, which can make a lot more acid bubbles, and you could have bubbles everywhere. And those are actually what deal the damage to you, really. Not so much him himself, but it's just the acid. Thankfully, Ensuizan gets rid of those pretty well. But we still really can't damage him. We still have to use the Z-Buster the entire time. Okay, that was decent. If this was Red Zero, I would have taken I probably would have been in the yellow right now, and I probably would consider healing. Just food for thought. And we don't SDC him this time. This time we just use his own weapon against him, and as you saw, we basically instantly erase him. It's actually pretty awesome. And we're going to be doing that for a lot of the bosses. Up next we have Turtleoid, and just like before, we're going to be abusing the turn slash strat, standing in his toe, slashing, and then spinning the other way, and doing that 2 or 3 times to end the fight. Awesome. Now I'm going to save the full health heal for Sigma himself, but I am going to use the health canteen just to kind of get me into a little bit of a safer spot. Now I'm going to try to showcase Scarage's potential to get a quick kill. It may not go well. It didn't go well. That first shot, depending on how the frames work, you can actually deal massive amounts of damage to him. And I mean really large amounts, like hit him for half his health, if not more. Like I said, the best shot I've ever seen someone actually get was they pretty much brought him down to 1 HP, to this level. But it's a little hard to do. You have to hold down and you want to slash just the rock that he's rolling. When he spins around, the game still hasn't registered immunity frame timings and stuff yet. So because of the varying damage of the Z-Buster, you can actually get multiple hits with the Z-Buster and deal a staggering amount of damage. It's almost as powerful as Guard Shell Slash on other bosses. It's about that level of damage. It might be a little bit harder on the Legacy Collection because of the frame rating. Which, by the way, I am running this on the Legacy Collection on Steam. However, all of these strats were comprised of using the PS1. And this game is very reminiscent of the PS1. I think it's just the frame rates were buffed. So instead of it being at 30 frames, I believe this is running closer to 60. So some of those like frame perfect tricks are a little bit harder to get on this version, but all of the other cheats that we've been using, the exploits, the balancing of the game, if you will, are available on all versions of this game. Next we got Wolf, who is arguably probably my second favorite. Like, that's his run position right there. Alright, perfect. He's probably my second favorite boss design in X6. First being Blaze Heatnix. I just think Heatnix looks really, really cool, especially in his level intro art that they show of him. Like, I think he just looks really awesome there. And Wolf is pretty cool. So next and last we have Commander Yamark. And if he goes above our heads, like I mentioned in his level, we'll just use the third slash to basically beat into him. And that is all 8 Mavs once again. And all that's left is the Sigma stages. Here is just a dash fest. You want to be careful with one of the jumps coming up, because you can kill yourself, not for so much falling into a pit, but for hitting the spikes. That jump right there from the middle platform to this, if you over jump, you'll hit those spikes and that's instant death. And then you lose like 30 seconds of your time. So coming up, we have 2 Sigma fights, Sigma 1 and Sigma 2 respectively, and Sigma 1 has the best intro of any Sigma in the entire X series. I like to present Homeless Sigma. He's kind of had a rough night. Hopefully he'll just keep walking and we could just shoot him. That's the best and like god strat that can happen. He can shoot us and deal a lot of damage to us, or even worse, he can fall down and become invulnerable and then do a lot of damage on the screen. Thankfully he didn't do any of that, he just walked and we could just shoot him. Coming up next, we have the very final boss, and if you were doing this for time, like on a speedrun, like you're practicing your time, time officially ends on the very last hit. So as soon as Sigma's health hits 0, that is when time would officially stop. Unlike in X4 where you still have control of your character after the death of Sigma. I should have just taken the heal there. That was a bad placement of the platform. What I was doing there was I was going for Insuizan, actually. You can actually get the Insuizan buff from that platform. And then it just allows you to safely deal with Sigma. Hopefully he'll give us God RNG again. Nope. Now his attacks are slow, but they hit hard. So like that green shield, if you don't keep hitting it and pushing it back, it'll actually sprint forward towards you and deal a large amount of damage. So again, Sigma he's not hard in the sense that he's difficult with his patterns, like he is an X2 with like Blade Sigma and stuff like that. He's just slow, methodical, but hits hard. But if he just walks the entire time, it makes your life tons easier. So let's see if we can get this right now. Yes. Time. Now, for the tutorial being an hour and 10 minutes is okay. That's about what my speedrun was on average for X5. My PB for this is actually 57 minutes and I think 37 seconds on my channel. Now, this is where the story changes. Like, he's supposed to die in X5, and then he gets rebuilt in the Zero series, you know, which is on the Game Boy Advance, which is actually coming out to Steam in a few days, I believe, if not already. And I think it's January. I think it's coming out. If not, it's a little bit later. But they released the entire Z series, so that's where that story's supposed to take place. But because they rushed this game out, they had to posh the ending, and the ending is that Zero goes into cryosleep, and then he gets woken up hundreds of years later or so in the Z series. The problem is, then they made X7 and X8, which take place after this. So what happened to the chronological story there? So this would be when Zero is supposed to go into cryosleep, which would lead into the Z series, because that's how it was intended to be. But it was supposed to be originally be ending with X5. That's why X5 was such a big callback to the original game, the original Megaman franchise. You know, the music, the layout, some of the boss designs and such were all callbacks to the X series, because it was supposed to be the final farewell. But this has been Mega Man X6. Sorry about some of the little mess ups here and there. Sometimes the game just gets you, or eats your inputs. But we got through it. It was a lot of fun. I think I genuinely, now I can say, I prefer X6 over X5 as far as speed run. Casually, I prefer X5 all day, because at least X5 is a playable game, whereas X6 casually, not using any of these speed strats that we're using, is a horribly designed game. It only looks good as a speed run, and that's because we break the game back into our favor to rebalance the terrible design of this game. If you try to run this game casually, it's a lot more challenging. It's a lot harder if you don't use the strats that we use today, like the immunity strat from Insui-san, for example. The route is okay though, even on casual runs. It does help you get through. If you plan on doing a pure X run, be prepared for a lot of revisiting. You'll be revisiting each stage probably more than once, especially Scaravich, because of the RNG of his stage, and there's like 3 items that are locked way behind RNG doors. It's a problem. There are 3 armors that X can get total in this game. You start with the Falcon armor, you can get the Blade armor, and then you can get the Shadow armor, which is the really cool ninja one, which replaces Gaia armor from X5. It's immune to spikes, and it can cling onto walls and such, and it can also do the ceiling jump that you saw Zero do in Gate Stage 1. So that's a cool armor. Unfortunately, you can't use all of your other abilities and powers that you got throughout the game, so you're kind of limited to just using your X-Buster and your sword. But it makes the sword a lot more powerful. The Blade armor is pretty much the replacement of the original Gaia armor from X5, in that it is your high mobility armor. It allows you to dash in multiple directions. And with the guard shell, if you decide to use the guard shell's trick for that, it can do a large amount of damage to high max. But it takes way too long to get. It takes way too long to get set up. It's bad. it's it's a bad run, but it is doable. It is possible. They did it at GDQ like I think 2015. I think was when they did that run. Maybe it was 2013. They did the original X6 run with the X styled route, but it's since been revamped, years later, to where now we just kind of run this 0 setup. Again, this wasn't the optimal settings. Like I said, most times people run it on easy mode, and it does make the game a little bit more manageable. But even on easy mode, the game is still challenging because of the poor design. So if you ever decide to pick this game up, I definitely recommend trying it out, seeing it on normal, see if it's your speed, if you can keep up pace with the game. If not, turn it down to easy. It's probably as difficult on easy mode as maybe X4 is. X4 might even be a little bit more challenging on this game than easy, but X4 didn't have difficulty settings. They only introduced that in X5 and later. But I'm going to sign off. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you had fun. Learned something. And we'll see what the next game is that I do a tutorial for. I haven't decided what it'll be. It won't be a Megaman game. We'll see. Keep your eyes and ears out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.